y'all, welcome to another video. Taylor here, a holistic health coach, Reiki master, lover of crystals, guide on your spiritual and health path. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing about my period, the full story. I made a video almost a year ago now where I was talking about not having a period on a raw vegan diet and not being worried about it. And I want to finally provide some context to that video. I shared a lot of this on an Instagram Live, my Instagram Live number 4, and you can see that live on my IGTV account at Joyful Raw Life on Instagram. But in today's video, I'll be going into my story to share with you all that context that was sorely missing from the other video. So let's get into it. Be sure to check out the links in the description. I've got a free ebook there, as well as all of my ebooks are 40% off. My wonderful recipe books are 40% off with code VEGANUARY to celebrate people trying out a vegan diet for the month of January. I feel a lot of resistance in actually sharing this. It's funny because I did share this story in the Instagram Live and I felt a ton of resistance to sharing about it there. But I did because I often get questions about, do I have a period on a raw vegan diet? What if I lost my period? Is that bad? You know, a lot of confusion and a lot of stress from different women about this issue. And so I finally did share it on Instagram. It is very vulnerable information. There's a lot here. It's very personal. It's, you know, it takes a lot to just come forward with this, but I do so in hopes that other people can connect with my story, resonate with it, and also to just share the whole scope, the whole wide range of what can be normal for someone, as I think it really can vary and differ quite remarkably from what you're told in a doctor's office or what you're told in sexual health education and about reproductive health and the messaging we get as women maturing throughout our adolescence into the teen years and beyond. So I share in hopes that the people who are kind of on the outskirts of what is normal can hopefully take away something from this video and feel that what they're going through might be a bit more normalizing if your story is at all similar to mine. So let's go back in time quite a bit. I am 31 now. When I was a young girl, I remember my mommy giving me a book about periods, and it was my most favorite book. It had pictures of all of girls' boobs at different stages, and I was like fascinated by the development of those. And you know, what stage am I at? It was like I was on stage 1 for like forever, and I wanted boobs so much. It was hilarious. And I loved learning about the period and, you know, what was coming, what to expect, you know, the blood and what it means. You're maturing into a woman. And I remember, you know, being in middle school and like being ready for it, being in junior high. All my friends got their periods, their boobs were coming in, and I was ready for it. Being a freshman in high school, by that time, pretty much everyone around me, I went to all girls boarding school, everyone already had their period except me. Then I was a sophomore in high school, same situation. Everyone already had their monthly cycle except for me. Came to be a junior in high school. Everyone had had their monthly cycle for a long time now, except for me. And then coming into my senior year of high school, I still hadn't gotten it. And I was 17 years old. And I remember, you know, my family thought something might be wrong with me. I even got I got ultrasound of, all my equipment. I had, checkups with the gynecologist, checking blood draws to see my hormone levels, an MRI of my brain to see if I had a pituitary tumor that was causing my period to not happen. And no, I didn't have a brain tumor. My blood work, my hormone levels, I think were pretty normal except for cortisol. I was stressed out. And otherwise, though, structurally, nothing was wrong. No cysts, no damage, nothing wrong with the organs. And, it was just, I didn't have it. I didn't bleed. So what happened? At age 17, I started the birth control pill. And I remember my boobs got a little bigger and I started having withdrawal bleeds because that last week of your pills, you're not taking the hormones. And because you're not getting the hormones, the bleeding happens. And so for me, that was good enough. That was like, oh, I have a period now. I didn't really know that it wasn't really a period, but it made me feel more normal. And I continued with the pill throughout college. So for the next 4 years, I was on the pill. And during that time, I remember having pretty regulated hormones. Actually, back up. For my freshman year of college, my sophomore year of college, I was on the pill. And then before my junior year of college, when I was 20 years old, I got a copper IUD. I decided I'd had enough of the hormones on the pill. I felt like my PMS was too bad and like the pill had made me gain weight and I just was not feeling it anymore. So I tried the copper non-hormonal IUD. And I had that in my junior year of college, my senior year of college, and then had it removed the year after college. And I remember when I had that thing in, it was awful. It was painful. It was painful at times during intercourse. It was painful when I had my periods. My periods were no longer every month. They were more irregular, and when they came in, they were extremely heavy and clotty, and my PMS, I thought it was bad on the pill. I hadn't seen anything yet. When I got on the IUD, my PMS was much worse. I remember my moods were horrible, particularly at the year after college, right before I had it removed. That was also an incredibly stressful time in my life, and of course that factored into it. But I had a lot of severe cramping. It felt very uncomfortable, and I remember finally having it removed because my periods had gotten so awful, and to the point where my moods were so out of control that I remember being like locking myself in the bathroom and like screaming and crying and wanting to harm myself and really just acting out in ways. Granted, I was in an abusive relationship, in a very toxic relationship. But during those times of the month, it was like everything had just boiled over and I had had enough. So I decided to have it removed. I remember the removal process was painful. It was awful. But I was really glad I had made that decision. And I got off of it, and for a while, I don't think I had a period. And then eventually, I think it came back, but it was a bit irregular, but it was less. It was less of the PMS. It was much more manageable. And around the time I had the IUD removed, I also adopted a vegan diet. So with the vegan diet and with the IUD being removed, my period improved quite a bit. The PMS went away. And so I was no IUD and no birth control for less than a year. And during that time, my period was more irregular, but it was lighter and it was less cramps and less mood problems. And then I got on the birth control pill again because I started taking Accutane for my skin, which I was hoping would cure my skin issues, which had gotten slightly better when I adopted a vegan diet, but had not gotten fully improved to the state of like where my skin is now. And that's what I wanted. So I got back on the birth control pill. I started having the regular withdrawal bleed again. And in March 2013, I stopped taking Accutane, the birth control pill, as well as some antidepressants and psych meds I was on at the time for my mood, for treatment-resistant depression. That's a whole other video I can make. And at that time, I lost my period, and I did not get it back for a very long time. So March 2013, off the birth control pill, no period. At that time, I was vegan, and I started learning more about how to do a vegan diet in a healthful way. And I started incorporating more smoothies. I did my first juice cleanse for 30 days. I adopted a high raw, nutritarian, Dr. Furman style, whole food plant-based diet with a lower amount of fat, but still adequate fat every day. And I'd started running again. So I made all these health improvements at that time as well. And then, so to March 2013, the rest of 2013, I'm doing the nutritarian thing, feeling healthier, running a lot. In early 2014, that's when I first tried a raw vegan diet and started my raw vegan journey. And again, I was running, I was cycling, I was active, I was doing yoga, and I still didn't have a period that year. And again, I had blood work done, no hormone problems. They told me it's because I'm so active and lower body fat percentage, but at that time I was actually not as lean as I am right now. And you know, I was at a healthy body weight. I was not underweight by any means. And so 2015 came and I was still doing a raw diet. Then it shifted down to, I started incorporating some cooked foods, but still mostly raw. And then I went back to raw foods and did some fasting later on in that year. And no period all of 2015. 2016, same thing. I did some more fasting. I did do some cooked food, some raw food. Was kind of going back and forth, and again, not in the best place psychologically. You know, doing a lot of inner work and shadow work that was bringing up a lot, in also having a lot of changes and transitions, and just, you know, life can be hard sometimes. So 2016, no period either. And that bothered me because I had gotten like this girl Audra's book, if you've ever heard of that, and like Get Your Period Back, and I'd started implementing some of her teachings when I was doing some of the cooked food, but I kept having this feeling like I don't want to gain a lot of weight. I don't want to have to get overweight just to bleed every month. There was some resistance because part of me was like, this sounds really good. I need to have a period. That's what's healthy. Then this other part of me was like, but I feel better when I'm at a healthy body weight. I feel better when I'm on raw foods. So, and it was like, I didn't know if the raw food voice was really sick and eating disordered or something, or if the one that was saying, you know, gain some weight, eat more food, and get your period back was, you know, a disordered eating voice too that was like binge, you know. So it was quite confusing. And what I ended up doing in 2017 was in part response to how many fasts and cleanses I had done. I depleted my body in many ways. I had healed many things, including I used to have terribly weak wrists and very bad wrist pain. And that completely went away with the fasting and cleansing, as well as I think detoxing a lot of the psych meds and the pharmaceuticals I had had throughout my whole life up until that point. Antibiotics all the time for my skin for many years, every single day. So I'd really, stripped away a lot of my gut bacteria too. But with the fasting and cleansing, I had depleted my body, and I was like, okay, for 2017, I'm not going to focus so much on having a perfect diet or being at a healthy body weight or anything. I was traveling and I was enjoying food, and I was just trying to eat normally and figure out what that meant and not be stressing out about food at all and not be strict in any way or restrictive. So I did that, and there were periods when I was eating raw food, but it was as much raw food as I wanted. And then there were periods I was eating cooked food, and it was as much cooked food as I wanted. And there was absolutely no restriction going on in any way, shape, or form. And I put on a lot of weight, and actually started living in a monastery and a meditation center where I could have been raw, but it would have been very, very challenging. And so I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to do cooked food and really not worry about it. And so I was eating oils and salt and in large quantities of cooked food, like raw food-sized portions of the cooked foods. And so I put on a lot of weight quite fast. And in September 2017, I got my period back. So this was all the way from March 2013 to September 2017. So that's over 4 years of no period, and finally got it back. And to me, I was overjoyed when it came back. I was so happy. I felt so connected. I felt so connected to the moon. I would celebrate the moon all the time. I remember walking in the moonlight at the meditation center where I was living in Vermont. It was absolutely beautiful. And I would walk in the moonlight, and I'd be saying all these different prayers and chanting and singing and crying and doing walking meditations and just being so thankful and grateful for healing and for feeling my heart and expanding my consciousness, and also connecting with some very, very beautiful souls, and feeling so much powerful healing happening in my life on so many different levels, incredibly deeply. I'm feeling it right now just talking about it. Maybe you can feel that too in my transmission here. So for September 2017, October, November, December, period every month. In December, I actually started living in a monastery in Canada, the same monastery I had visited in July and August of 2017. And there, my diet continued in the same fashion. Cooked food, oils, salt, large portions, as much as I wanted, absolutely no restrictions. And I continued to put on more and more weight. I reached my heaviest I've ever been in my life when I was there. And I don't know what it is, because I hadn't weighed myself in ages. Since 2016, it had been a really long time. And I'm guessing I was at least over 160 pounds. I'd say 170 pounds probably easily. But I cannot be fully certain, because I did not weigh myself, because I was not about to step on a scale. And in January of 2018, February of 2018, had my period. March of 2018, had my period. And it was actually in March of 2018 during a 45-day, mostly silent, very intense winter retreat. Or actually, it was April 2018. I was working in the kitchen. I threw out my back. We were meditating for almost 10 hours a day, 8 to 10 hours a day. And then I was contrasting that sedentary meditation with lifting very heavy pots and pans full of food in the kitchen to feed. I think we had 45 people there. And I threw out my back. I hurt myself badly to the point it was like a whole electrical circuit went off when I threw out my back, and I knew I needed to just stop and go to bed and stay in bed. And at that point I was like, I remembered my raw food and my juices and my smoothies, and I was like, this is what I need to do to heal. I need a really simple diet now and fruit, and I need to start paying more attention to my body, because I've done some really profound deep healing work for my mind and my emotions and my soul, but my body is really asking me to pay attention to it too. And so I did. And so starting April 2018, I didn't have a period again. And since that time, I've stuck to raw food for the most part and have not had a period again. I did bleed one time because, again, I gained some weight when I started incorporating some cooked food last year. But I had one period, and I probably gained like a lot of weight very quickly. I was having mostly raw food and then having a large potato meal at night. And I had one bleed, 1 2-day bleed, and it was like, hello Taylor, like you can bleed still, just letting you know. And it was almost like a reality check for me at that point, that like, wow, you really have gained some weight, and like maybe you should start only doing a raw food diet and like making sure you're eating an appropriate amount of fat. And so what I've collected from this experience, and since that time I haven't had another period, is when I'm at an appropriate healthy body weight and I'm on a high raw or fully raw existence with the adequate amount of fat, not binging on fat, not binging on anything, I don't tend to bleed. And I don't think this is a problem, because for me to have a natural period in my life, the only times that's happened is when I have been, I've rapidly gained weight and I'm eating too much food, arguably, to maintain a healthy body weight. I'm eating 3,000 plus calories, and some people would say, oh, that's not what you need to do to heal. And if that resonates with you, I'm not here to tell you not to do that. But when I've bled, when I was bleeding at the meditation center in the monastery, I was so grateful, but at the same time I had a lot of pain in my body. I would wake up in the morning, my feet would hurt very badly, and I was in my 20s. I was in my late 20s, and I don't think you should have a lot of pain when you're in your 20s and you're supposedly healthy. And I was having joint pain. I didn't want to do yoga anymore. I had just done yoga training too, but I didn't want to practice because I didn't feel good in my body. I would hike and walk though. That was about the only thing I do, but I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I didn't want to wear like real people clothes, like normal clothes. It was like, what can I put on? And like, I felt ugly. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel like it matched what was inside my heart. And that was really, really tough. And so what I've gathered from this is, for me to naturally bleed, and why I didn't ever bleed when I was so young, is because I wasn't overweight at that point. That seems to be what is needed for my constitution to actually bleed, is to be around 150 plus pounds is what it takes, because I've been at 140 and I've not had a natural period. I've been at 145 and not had a natural period, and it seems like I have to be over that weight for it to happen. And usually for me to be over that weight, I have to be eating some cooked food or be totally binging on nuts. And it is a binge amount because it's like a pound of nuts, where that's not healthy for your heart and for other organs in the body. It's too much fat. I do believe in consuming fat every day, but not a pound of nuts. More like a quarter cup of nuts, give or take, depending on your activity level and your body weight and your calorie needs. So I don't tend to have a period when I'm an appropriate body weight. I don't have a period right now, and I am about 115 pounds for 5 foot 4.5 feet tall. And I feel so good in my body, and I do notice ovulation. I do believe I ovulate. I have a discharge once a month, and I can feel it drop down, and it's like, whoa, this is really cool to notice, and that's completely healthy. And I've had blood work done throughout the years, and my hormone levels have not ever indicated anything is amiss, and no pap smear or gynecological exam I've ever had has noticed any structural abnormalities or anything that is problematic. Endometriosis, cystic ovaries, anything like that. Never been the case for me. So I share this especially to those who are, high raw foodies or raw foodies, and they've stopped bleeding and they're stressing about it. I think it can be healthy for some. And many people have told me that this is what some certain natural hygienists like Arnold Ehret says, that the cleaner your body gets, the more you've cleansed and purified yourself. For certain people, you might not be needing to shed the lining. There might not be that buildup in some bodies, and that can be a sign that you are in a really healthy, pristine state. That's not to say that someone who is bleeding is not in a healthy, pristine state and they're impure or they're dirty. I don't want to say that at all, because I think having a menstruation is very beautiful. But I think maybe for some people it can be a sign that you are in a clean, pristine, beautiful, pure space. And to celebrate that, just as women would celebrate the gift of their monthly blood. And I hope that feels loving and inclusive to women who bleed and don't bleed. And I also, someone tipped me off that in the Tao, that it also talks about how when the key to long life, the key to fertility, the key to longevity is actually to reduce your menstrual flow, because that flow is a drain of energy. And so to reduce it is to promote youth, to promote fertility, to promote longevity. And so that is pretty cool. It could be, taken in that context. A woman who doesn't bleed is assured of a long life, of retaining her youth and her beauty and her vigor and her fertility. So to look at it that way. And please comment down below if you have heard anything else about or read anything that suggests that not bleeding, not having a period can be healthy, can be celebrated, because I want to celebrate it for those who are at a healthy body weight. You're not recovering from anorexia, say, or orthorexia, or severe underweight, or something like that. I don't mean to be saying that someone who is clearly underweight and not having a period, that might not be healthy. That might not be an indication that you're in a good space. But for someone who is at a healthy body weight, who feels vital, who is full of energy and vitality and thriving and passionate about life and loving and expanding and creating, and if you're not bleeding and you're enjoying your raw foods and you are eating enough, then that just might be your body's healthy point. And I celebrate you and I honor you, and I do believe that about myself at this point in my life, and I feel comfortable and confident in that. And I very much enjoy not bleeding, so that means I don't have to buy tampons and pads or Diva cups, which I think is such a beautiful tool to use some kind of cups, but for my anatomy, that is a very painful situation that does not work. So I could never use something like that. I was having to use tampons and, you know, buying organic tampons, but still, you know, that wasn't pleasant. So I really enjoy not being surprised by the blood, and I enjoy not having cramps ever. I enjoy not having any kind of mood swings suddenly, that my mood is quite steady. And I really enjoy life without a monthly bleed, and I celebrate it, and I honor women who are bleeding and those who are not, and would love to connect more with you. If you have any questions, please drop them below. I would love to talk about this more, and if you're still curious and you want more, like I said, go check out my Instagram at Joyful Raw Life. It's my Instagram live number 4, which is in my IGTV at Joyful Raw Life, and you can watch that one too. And I even made one with my friend Portia J Healing, and we talked all about periods and it. But if you have any questions, drop them below. Maybe I'll do a live on here about it, and we can talk more about this, because I think this is a very important topic. And I think many young women and maybe older women too have maybe not had the normal trajectory, and I'd love to know more experiences that maybe are not the mainstream path that we're told is normal and everything else is not. So I appreciate you watching this. As I said, check out the links in my description. There is a free recipe ebook. It is a mini version of Raw Food Ayurveda Volume 1. Lots of information in there, as well as 10 delicious sweet recipes. And all my ebooks are 40% off. Code VEGANUARY. I also offer holistic health coaching, raw food coaching around weight loss, around creating balance, and really dialing in your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. I also offer Reiki sessions. So lots of things I'm passionate about. I appreciate you. Subscribe. I'll be sharing at least a video every week. Like if you like it. And thank you so much for being here. Much love to you. Namaste.